Millionaire father promises marriage if daughter smiles. What the maid did is simply unbelievable. The executive elevator ascended in silence. Daniel Carter adjusted the cuff of his Italian shirt while watching the numbers change on the control panel. Beside him, a little blonde girl with clear blue eyes held tightly to her father's hand without saying a word. Lily Carter was only 5 years old, yet she carried a weight far too heavy for her small shoulders. Her messy golden hair fell over her shoulders, framing a face that rarely smiled. Since her mother's passing 8 months earlier, she had lived like a silent shadow. "Today you'll stay with me at the office," Daniel spoke, more a statement than a question. The girl only nodded. With no nanny available and urgent contracts to handle, bringing Lily to the company wasn't ideal, but it would only be for a few hours. As the doors opened, the main lobby appeared. The space radiated power, polished marble, reflective glass, employees moving quickly in strict discipline. Everything was perfect, yet cold. Daniel strode forward with authority, and Lily hurried after him. At 40, he was the youngest CEO in the country, commanding a corporation that could raise or topple companies at will. "Mr. Carter, the merger contracts are ready," reported his assistant, Sophie Lynn. 15 minutes. I need to take care of Lily first," he replied. He led his daughter into his office and pointed to a chair near the window. Lily obediently pulled a coloring book from her backpack. Every move was precise, almost mechanical, as if following a ritual. He wondered when the last time he had seen Lily play or laugh sincerely was. Agreements, decisions, millions of dollars in motion. Yet when he turned back, she was still in the same place, carefully coloring. "Let's go downstairs. Come with me," he said. 3 floors below, Daniel had to inspect the new security system. The lobby was busier, filled with staff coming and going. And there, he noticed something unusual, a young blonde woman kneeling to scrub a stain on the marble floor. At first glance, nothing special, just a cleaner. But when she lifted her head and smiled at the security guard, "Good morning, Gilberto. How's your wife?" "Better, Grace. Thanks for asking." "That's wonderful. Call me if you need anything." That smile lit up her whole face. Her sparkling blue eyes shone with genuine warmth, a stark contrast to the chilly atmosphere around them. She looked no older than 28, yet carried an energy that made the entire space feel warmer. Daniel frowned, clearly a new employee. What unsettled him was how effortlessly she turned a simple greeting into something personal. "Daddy, can I sit there?" Lily pointed to a bench. He nodded, and they sat down. But Daniel's eyes never left Grace Miller. She worked while softly humming, unaware the CEO was watching. People naturally gathered near her at lunchtime, drawn to her presence. An idea struck Daniel, crazy but irresistible. He stood and stepped into the center of the lobby. Conversations gradually quieted. Grace looked up, startled to see the CEO. "Good afternoon," he greeted. "Good afternoon, Mr. Carter," a few responded. Grace quickly stood, clutching her cleaning rag, eyes filled with both worry and curiosity. "You're new here?" Daniel asked. "Yes, sir. I started last week. My name is Grace." He repeated her name as though tasting its sound. Then suddenly he blurted out, "I have a proposal for you, Grace." The room fell silent. Grace frowned, confused. Daniel pointed at Lily. "This is my daughter, Lily. She hasn't smiled in a long time. If you can make her smile, I'll marry you." Gasps echoed around the lobby. Sophie Lynn turned pale, but Grace only tilted her head slightly and calmly answered, "All right, I accept." Daniel froze. In her eyes was a strange determination. "Truly?" he asked, astonished. Grace smiled. "Why not? Lily is a lovely girl." Grace set aside her cleaning tools and approached Lily, kneeling to meet the child's gaze. "Hello, Lily. I'm Grace. Your father says you're very smart." Lily studied her silently. Grace pulled a large, colorful button from her pocket. "This is a magic button. Do you want to see it work?" She pressed it against her forehead, made a silly face, and closed her eyes as if seeing something strange. Lily leaned closer, curious. "What is it?" she asked. Grace began in a dramatic voice. "There was once a princess with golden hair and blue eyes, just like you. A greedy dragon stole all the colors of the kingdom. But instead of fighting, the princess taught the dragon to be kind. And when the dragon learned to smile, every color returned." Lily was captivated. When Grace mimicked the dragon's voice saying, "Thank you, princess," a giggle slipped from Lily's lips. Then came a radiant smile, bright and unstoppable, echoing across the lobby. Daniel was stunned, almost unable to believe it. Lily had truly laughed. "Mission accomplished," Grace said proudly, standing up. Daniel stared at her, part astonished, part unsettled. He only whispered, "Thank you." "You're welcome. Lily just needed a little magic," she replied. "Will you come back tomorrow?" Lily asked, hopeful. "Of course. I work here every day. You can see the magic button anytime you want." Daniel remained silent, realizing something had just shifted. That evening, for the first time in months, Lily ate happily, chatted away, and even sang the lullaby her mother once sang to her. Daniel sat quietly listening, a strange new emotion rising within him. The next morning he arrived at the office earlier than usual. Lily Carter was still asleep when he left home, something of a relief since he needed a few hours to sort out his unease. Daniel Carter called Malcolm, a private investigator he trusted with sensitive company matters. "I need an investigation. Nothing too deep, just the basics." "About whom?" "An employee. Grace Miller, works in cleaning, started last week." Daniel hesitated. How could he explain that he was hiring an investigation simply because she was too good with his daughter? "I just want to know more about her. Finances, background, lifestyle," Malcolm agreed. "I'll have results in 2 days." While waiting, Daniel couldn't focus. The image of Lily singing yesterday haunted him. After 8 months of silence, his daughter had sung again. He should be grateful, yes, but inside, uneasiness remained. Not long after, Sophie Lynn announced, "Lily is here. She says you promised to let her stay." Daniel sighed. He hadn't promised, but neither had he forbidden it. Lily entered, smiling brightly, carrying a small bag. "I drew some pictures for Miss Grace. They were childlike sketches of a princess and a dragon, simple but careful, filled with heart." Grace accepted them, gazing at them as though they were treasures, and asked to keep one. Daniel watched in silence. All morning he found excuses to pass through the hallway just to see Lily chattering happily, while Grace listened with genuine attention. They looked as if they had known each other forever. 2 days later, Malcolm reported, Grace Miller, 28 years old, studied early childhood education, though she never practiced it. No criminal record, no bank debts. However, she regularly sends most of her income to cover medical expenses for her mother, Evelyn Miller, who is in a Spokane care facility with end-stage renal failure. Because of this, her savings are nearly non-existent, and she sometimes relies on small personal loans to get by. This confused Daniel. Why would someone struggling financially still help others so much? Her apartment was modest, without luxuries, no car, no designer brands. Where did her money go? The report gave no answer. Instead of relief, it only deepened Daniel's bewilderment. That afternoon, he found Lily and Grace sitting on the floor making paper flowers. "She taught me," Lily beamed. Grace smiled, explaining that her mother had once taught her. When Daniel asked about her mother, her smile faltered. "She's gone now." Sadness mixed with a hint of shame crossed her face. Lily quickly changed the subject, but Daniel did not. Perhaps the answer to her financial mysteries lay there. Still, he couldn't deny one truth. Lily was changing. She was happy again, and Grace was the reason. The next morning, Lily was ready early, determined to go with her father to see Grace. Daniel couldn't refuse her. Along the way, Lily excitedly talked about what Grace would teach her: origami, paper cranes, skills Grace had only learned from online videos because she couldn't afford classes. Daniel felt a difficult emotion rising, part admiration, part guilt. At the office, Lily ran straight to Grace. Watching their smiles, Daniel's mind formed a thought, crazy yet persistent. What if Grace lived with them? The house had more than enough space, and Lily glowed whenever she was near Grace. Grace would no longer have to worry about rent, and Lily would have joy again. That afternoon, Daniel called Grace aside. "I have a proposal. Come live with us." Grace froze, blushing. "I don't need charity." "It's not charity. It's practical. Lily needs you, and you'll be more comfortable too." She was silent for a long moment before nodding, but with a condition. "If one day you feel it's not right, tell me immediately." Daniel agreed. When Lily heard the news, she squealed with joy, hugging Grace so tightly she nearly toppled her over. On Saturday morning, Grace moved in. Her belongings were modest, just a few clothes, books, a box of keepsakes. Stepping into the Carter mansion, she hesitated. The house was vast, magnificent, yet cold. Daniel led her to a room with a window facing the garden. "Perfect, thank you," she said. Lily tugged at her hand, dragging her excitedly to explore every corner. Daniel stayed behind, uneasy. Would such a stark difference make Grace uncomfortable? But at dinner, she spoke naturally and gracefully, encouraging Lily to open up, even about the piano the girl had abandoned after her mother's death. Grace didn't push, only listened and encouraged gently. Daniel realized she had the ability to reach wounds he himself had been powerless to touch. 2 weeks after Grace Miller moved in, Daniel Carter kept his usual routine, leaving the house early, grabbing a quick coffee, spending the day at the office. But now, whenever he returned, the atmosphere was completely different. Laughter echoed through the halls, soft music played in the living room, and the fragrance of fresh flowers, always replaced by Grace, filled the air. Lily Carter had changed as well, no longer the withdrawn little girl who hid in her room, but a child who ran to find Grace, showing her drawings, asking for homework help, or simply chatting away. Daniel watched from a distance. He cared more than he dared to admit, yet he didn't know how to join in. For so long, his relationship with his daughter had been limited to studies, doctor visits, obligations. He had forgotten how to play with her. One evening, with a meeting canceled, he came home early. Entering the living room, he found Lily and Grace sitting on the carpet, surrounded by a 1,000-piece puzzle. "Daddy, we're building a castle!" Lily exclaimed. 1,000 pieces? That's tough," Daniel said in surprise. "Grace said you just need patience," Lily answered quickly. Grace smiled, praising Lily's remarkable visual memory. Daniel sat down on a chair to watch. Lily was so focused, it was mesmerizing. "Do you want to help, Daddy?" she asked. "I'm not very good at it," he admitted awkwardly. "That's okay. Grace wasn't at first either. I'll teach you." The hopeful look in Lily's eyes left him no choice. He sat down on the carpet and was given the task of assembling the edge pieces. At first, Daniel felt ridiculous, sitting on the floor in an expensive suit. But within minutes, he forgot all about work, absorbed only in finding the right pieces. Strangely, the task relaxed his mind. Suddenly, Lily cried out, "Daddy, you're smiling!" Daniel froze, raising a hand to his face. Indeed, he was smiling. They kept going until dinner. When called, he was astonished to realize more than an hour had passed. "After dinner, can we keep playing?" Lily asked excitedly. "Of course," Daniel replied, this time sincerely. At the table, Lily couldn't stop talking about the game, her father's skill with the edges, the joy of building the castle. Grace simply smiled, occasionally adding a word to keep the conversation flowing. Daniel suddenly said, "Thank you for encouraging Lily." "There's no need to thank me. Lily has always been a wonderful child. She just needed the chance to show it." After dinner, the three returned to the puzzle. As the castle took shape, Lily beamed with delight when she completed the main tower. Daniel felt a quiet pride. They had accomplished something together, small yet deeply meaningful. When it was time for Lily to sleep, Grace gently reminded her. Unexpectedly, Daniel said, "We'll continue tomorrow." Lily squealed, kissing him on the cheek before heading upstairs. Daniel realized he was cherishing every gesture, things he had once overlooked. When Lily was gone, Daniel and Grace tidied up the pieces. Between them lay a comfortable silence. He said softly, "Thank you for giving me the chance to be with her." Grace looked up. It's never too late to start again. The next morning, Lily Carter woke up early, waiting for her father to continue the game. Together, they completed the castle's garden before breakfast. "We're a great team," Lily said happily. "That's right," Daniel Carter smiled. During the meal, Lily suggested they try another game that evening. Grace Miller remembered there were a few in the library. Lily looked at her father with hopeful eyes. "Daddy, can you come home early?" Daniel hesitated. When was the last time someone wanted him to come home early? And when was the last time he wanted it himself? He nodded. "I'll try." That evening, he really did arrive home at 6:30. Lily ran to hug him, excitedly showing him the city-building game. Grace gently explained, "I read in an interview that you liked architecture. I thought this game would suit you." Daniel froze. She not only noticed, but even remembered such small details. The game was complex but fascinating. Lily and Daniel competed to build their cities, both strategic and creative. "Daddy, you're so good at this," Lily praised. "You too. Your city is beautiful," Daniel replied. Her smile warmed his heart. They played late into the night. Lily was so happy she didn't want to go to bed. As she was taken upstairs, she exclaimed, "Today was wonderful, Daddy. I want to play again tomorrow." Daniel promised that on the weekend he would spend the whole day. And he kept his word. Instead of golfing, he stayed home with his daughter, finishing puzzles, playing cards, folding paper figures at Grace's suggestion. By noon, Grace proposed a picnic in the garden. Daniel worried about the sun, but Grace reassured him that the oak tree provided cool shade. Lily jumped for joy, and so he agreed. The three of them spread a blanket beneath the tree, eating sandwiches and drinking juice. Lily ran across the grass, tumbling and laughing. Grace brought a ball, and they played catch, then tag. Daniel removed his shoes, stepping barefoot on the grass for the first time in years. Strange, yet pleasant. To his surprise, he found himself genuinely enjoying it. When Lily fell on the grass, she didn't cry but burst into laughter, rolling around. Grace lay down beside her, and without thinking, Daniel lay down too. Together they looked at the sky, pointing out cloud shapes, a dragon, a castle, a giant rabbit, even an ice cream cone. Lily beamed when her father saw exactly what she imagined. They stayed there until sunset. Lily returned with messy hair, clothes stained with grass, but her face glowing. "Daddy, today was the best day of my life." The words made Daniel freeze. She repeated it as naturally as breathing. "Today was perfect. We played together, laughed together, stayed together." Daniel's heart tightened. When was the last time he had heard such words? When was the last time he had made someone happy, not with money or power, but simply with his presence? He hugged his daughter tightly, feeling her small arms wrap around him. Looking toward Grace, he caught her eyes, warm, shimmering with pride and quiet contentment. That night, Daniel sat on the balcony, gazing at the garden where they had played all day. Lily's laughter still echoed in his mind. Perhaps for him, too, it had been one of the best days of his life. Not success, not contracts, but a simple, genuine happiness. All thanks to Grace. From that day, the rhythm of the house transformed. Mornings were filled with Lily's laughter from the kitchen. Afternoons with handmade storybooks crafted by Grace and Lily. Evenings no longer glowed in dim loneliness, but pulsed with stories, the scent of fresh-baked pastries, and soft music. Daniel started coming home earlier. Sometimes he lingered longer at the dinner table just to hear Lily talk about what Miss Grace told me today. Everything seemed perfect. Until one afternoon, Sophie called. "I've got the background report on Grace Miller." Daniel opened the folder and scanned the pages. Grace Miller, 28 years old. Studied early childhood education, never practiced. No criminal record, no bank debts. But one detail stood out. She sends monthly payments to a care facility in Spokane. Recipient, Evelyn Miller, mother. Diagnosis, end-stage renal failure. Daniel's grip tightened on the folder. He had assumed Grace was just a lost young woman, but the more he learned, the more he realized Grace wasn't lost. She had chosen this life, hard work, low wages, being overlooked, all to care for her mother, without complaint. That evening, Daniel found Grace folding Lily's blanket. She did it with such care, as if it were her own. "Grace," he said quietly. She turned, eyes calm as always, ready to listen. "I know about your mother," Daniel said plainly. Grace didn't react the way he expected. She just smiled faintly. "You had me checked?" "Only to make sure Lily was safe." "And what did you conclude?" Daniel paused. "I think I didn't see all of you before." Grace exhaled, her eyes glossy, but no tears fell. "I don't want pity," she said. "I just want to do small things well." Daniel nodded. "You've done more than that." 2 days later, as Lily and Grace were drawing together, her phone rang. "Grace Miller?" a curt voice said. "We're calling from Spokane Care Center. Your mother needs emergency surgery. Her condition is rapidly declining." Grace froze. She nodded, thanked them, and hung up. Daniel saw the color drain from her face. He approached. "What is it?" Grace looked at him, trembling. "My mom. She's critical. I have to go now." That day, Grace left with the same 2 small suitcases. She didn't say goodbye to Lily, only left a handwritten note. "I'm sorry for leaving so fast, but I promise if Lily ever needs me, I'll come back." That evening, Lily searched the house for Grace. When Daniel told her the truth, she fell silent for a long time, then turned her back to him and pulled the blanket over her head. "I don't want to tell stories anymore," she whispered, "and I don't need the magic button either." Daniel looked out the window, his heart sinking, and for the first time in weeks, the house felt cold again. Grace left on a rainy afternoon. No honking cars, no farewells, just 2 old suitcases and a silent figure disappearing beyond the door. And from that moment on, the house lost its sound. Lily didn't cry. She didn't throw tantrums. But she stopped telling stories, stopped coloring, and absolutely refused to mention Miss Grace. Mornings that once rang with laughter were now filled with clinking silverware. Daniel tried to maintain normal routines, school drop-offs, meetings, dinners, but everything felt like habit, not heart. A week later, he knocked on Lily's door. "Want me to read to you tonight?" Lily shook her head. "I'm not hungry," she whispered. "I just wanted to be quiet." Daniel sat on the edge of her bed, his eyes drifting to the stuffed toy, the flying cat Grace had sewn for her. It lay quietly on the pillow, just like its owner. In his sleepless nights, Daniel would walk down to the kitchen, flick on the light, and stare at the spot where Grace used to stand, washing dishes. Everything was still in place: the mug she used, Lily's unfinished sketchbook, the blue magic button in its tiny glass jar. It was strange how someone could leave and still live in every corner of a house. He opened his phone, scrolling to her last message. "Thank you for giving me a place to feel safe. I'm sorry I had to leave without warning." He had meant to reply a dozen times, but never knew what to say. He stared at the words, fingers hovering above the screen. He typed, deleted, and typed again. "You left a silence I don't know how to fill." Then he erased it, closed his eyes, and whispered into the empty room, "Come back, please." One evening, Lily came downstairs clutching their half-finished storybook. "Can you read this part with me, Daddy?" Daniel nodded. The page showed a princess standing on a cloud, holding a glowing button. Below was a scribbled line in Lily's handwriting. "She taught the dragon how to smile, but when she disappeared, all the colors left the kingdom again." Daniel read it, his throat tightening. "I want her to come back," Lily said. "Just once." Daniel looked at his daughter, then at the invisible space behind her, where once stood a woman who laughed softly and said, "I don't belong in fancy places." That night, Daniel sat alone in the living room, holding the sketchbook Lily left behind. He stared at the page of the princess and the dragon. She taught the dragon to smile. He closed his eyes, inhaling deeply. And we let her walk away. The next morning, with resolve burning quietly beneath his suit, Daniel called the Spokane Care Facility. "Evelyn Miller," he said, "I'd like to cover her medical bills." The voice on the other end hesitated. "Are you family?" "No, but I'm someone who needs Grace to come home." That night, Daniel sat beside Lily. "Do you miss Miss Grace?" he asked. Lily nodded. "If I bring her mom here to live with us, do you think Grace will come back too?" The little girl looked up at him, her eyes glowing like candles in the dark. "I think the magic button still works." For the first time in days, Daniel truly smiled. And he knew if there was anything worth doing, it was this: bringing the magic back to this house. Grace returned on a windless afternoon. The house was filled with the soft hum of the ceiling fan, the scratch of crayons from Lily's sketchpad in the living room, and the faint bubbling sound of water boiling on the stove. When the doorbell rang, Daniel answered out of habit. He wasn't expecting her. But when the door opened and she stood there, thinner, more tired, yet still wearing that familiar, quiet smile, time seemed to stop. Beside her sat an elderly woman in a wheelchair, her hair silver, her cheeks sunken by illness, but her eyes still carried that same gentle warmth. Daniel recognized her instantly. Grace's mother. "I'm sorry I didn't call," Grace said softly, almost afraid of being an intrusion. "I didn't know how to come back, so I just did." Daniel didn't respond. He didn't need to. He simply stepped aside and opened the door wider as if her return was never a question. Lily ran from inside the house, froze at the threshold, then cried out in disbelief, "Miss Grace!" She flung herself into Grace's arms, hugging her tightly as if letting go might make her vanish again like a dream. Grace held her close, burying her face into Lily's hair and whispering through a tremble, "I promised I'd come back, didn't I?" Lily only nodded, her tears soaking Grace's shoulder while her smile lit up the room like morning light. Daniel prepared a guest room for Evelyn next to the living room, quiet, bright, and close to Lily, just the way Grace had once described. From the next morning, the house began to breathe again. Laughter returned to the hallways. Grace's colored paper returned to the kitchen counters. And Daniel, once a man who only came home to fulfill his duties, found himself coming home because he wanted to. The evenings were no longer long stretches of silence, but a blend of unfinished stories, soft giggles from the kitchen when he and Grace bickered over soup recipes, and Lily offering up her seat to Evelyn like a little princess attending her queen. But more than that, Daniel slowly realized something else. Grace didn't just fill Lily's life. She filled his. One night, after Lily had gone to bed, Daniel found Grace sitting under the back porch lights, hands wrapped around a cup of now-cold tea. He sat beside her, eyes on the shadows beyond the garden, and said quietly, "Thank you for coming back." Grace didn't look at him, just smiled faintly. "I promised, didn't I?" Daniel took a breath. "Back then, I joked that if you made my daughter smile, I'd marry you. But if I say it again now, I'm not joking." Grace didn't flinch, didn't laugh, didn't look away. She only met his gaze with an expression calm and clear. "I don't need a promise," she said, "just to know. I have a place here, with everyone." Daniel turned to her, and for the first time in years, he felt no fear of loss, only the desire to keep what had finally come home. "Then," he said, "you already do." The day Grace came back marked a new beginning, not dazzling like fireworks, not grand like a ceremony, but quiet and gentle, like morning sunlight slipping through the trees. She no longer entered the house like a guest, but as if she had always belonged. From the moment Lily called out, "Miss Grace, help me tie my hair," to Evelyn's silent smile as she watched Daniel and Lily set the table with Grace. Everything whispered the same unspoken truth. This was home. Not a home built with bricks, but one woven from trust. Daniel saw it every day, in the way Lily held Grace's hand on the walk to school, in the look Evelyn gave him when he tucked an extra pillow behind her back, and in his own heart, which no longer carried the fear of loss, but something softer, steadier, hope. He was no longer a man hiding in work. He was someone learning how to love again. One autumn afternoon, with golden leaves drifting across the garden, Daniel decided to rewrite his own fairy tale. He invited Grace and Lily outside. Evelyn sat quietly in her wheelchair on the porch, a warm cup of tea in her hands. Lily sat between the two adults, folding an origami crane. No one noticed the small item tucked inside Daniel's jacket pocket. Not a magic button this time, but a tiny velvet box. "Lily," Daniel began, "do you remember when I told you that family isn't just about blood? It's about who stays by your side?" Lily nodded. "Well," he continued, "I want to ask you something. If I asked Miss Grace to officially become part of our family, would you say yes?" Lily looked up, eyes wide. "Are you going to marry Miss Grace?" Daniel laughed. "Only if you say yes?" Lily jumped into Grace's lap, squealing, "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." Daniel turned to Grace, pulled the box from his pocket, and opened it. The silver ring shimmered in the soft amber light of dusk. "Grace Miller," he said, voice low but steady. "You didn't just make my daughter smile. You made me feel again. You reminded me what a home could sound like. Will you stay, not just in this house, but in our lives as part of our family?" Grace didn't answer right away. She looked at Daniel, at Lily, then at Evelyn, the mother she had sacrificed so much to care for. And Evelyn was smiling, nodding slowly, tearfully. Grace turned back, eyes glistening, but her smile was brighter than it had ever been. "Yes," she whispered, "because we are a family, not by blood, but by choice." And so, in a house once silenced by grief, laughter returned to echo through its walls. No magic button was needed, just someone who listened, someone who dared to love, and someone who believed that family isn't made by blood, but by choice. They weren't perfect, but they were whole, not wealthy, but overflowing with love. And in a world that often feels uncertain, perhaps that is the greatest miracle of all.